And we can call the meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order. First item is adoption of the agenda. Moved. Second. Adoption. All those in favor? Two delegations this afternoon. First of all, Inspector Walton's here from the RCMP with Constable Gardner to give us an update on policing priorities and some of the stats. So welcome, Inspector and Constable.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and councillors. I'm here today to report on activities of the 2015-2016 fiscal year, which ended March 31st, 2016. I'll touch briefly on three areas today: human resources, operations, and priorities for last year and the coming year. So on the HR front, we faced several challenges, notably longer-term vacancies due to illness and injury, and the vacancy in our operations commander position. In the last few months, some members have started to return to duty, albeit in administrative function only. I've used reservists when I could, both to fill some of the vacancies on general duty, but also to assist us in our historic homicide investigations. In late March, our new operations NCO, Staff Sergeant Eric Rochette, arrived from Parksville. I would have brought him today for a little bit of show and tell, but he's actually right in the middle of buying a house in Comox, which I found out is not as easy as it is. It's pretty bidding war going on all the time right now, so yeah.
But it's worth it, though.
Of course it is. Instead, I've got Constable Rob Gardner here, who amongst other things handles our media relations, so Rob's my show and tell today. We've also had two promotions announced recently, including our former community policing coordinator, Tammy Douglas, who's being promoted to our district office in Victoria to take over the media relations position. While our current resource level do not allow me to consider the return of a school liaison, the bike patrol is back with much public support. Unless, of course, you're one of those that Corporal Waddell is caught using a cell phone, riding with a helmet, or riding on a sidewalk. Corporal Waddell has spent most of his time in the downtown area of Courtenay getting to know the people and the issues. However, he was in Comox last week and reported that everyone was behaving to the point where he didn't write any tickets at all. That's good Comox. He'll be covering bike-related events such as nautical days this coming summer. In addition to disrupting several commercial marijuana grow operations in the area, we've also been successful in keeping marijuana storefronts from opening due to the collaborative efforts of all of our municipal partners in the valley. As our neighbors up and down the island have discovered, it's far more expensive to close them down once they open than it is to prevent them from opening in the first place. And finally, we are undergoing both a national and provincial review of the auxiliary program. A survey went out last week to the auxiliaries as well as to mayor and councillors as part of this study. I don't expect a decision anytime soon, but I will update council when I have some news to report. Briefly take a look at stats. I'm pleased to report that calls for service in Comox have decreased from 2 years ago to last year by about 10%. This is added to the overall decrease in the Comox Valley jurisdiction of about 2.5% drop in calls for service to police. Overall, there have been very few increases in violent crime and property crime over this period, but the numbers are fairly low except for vehicle thefts and frauds. Violent crime has seen a decrease in both assaults and harassment files. However, uttering threats increased from 13 2 years ago to 20 last year. This is following the pattern seen elsewhere on the island where texting, phoning, and Facebook are the preferred methods of harassment. And criminal harassment files or preliminary files where people were stalked by their ex-partners. There's also been an increase in the number of bike thefts here in Comox. In most of the cases, the bikes were stolen from residents and they were not locked up. Only rarely have bikes been stolen when they have been locked up. Our success in solving these files has been hampered by the fact that very few of the victims bothered to record the serial numbers. The number of Reported frauds also rose, one of my favorite words, primarily as a result of internet phone frauds relating to CCRA, tax scams, and Microsoft. Finally, the number of reported thefts from vehicles has more than doubled last year. And almost all, in fact, all were from unlocked vehicles. The simplest way to reduce this crime is to simply lock your car. And if you are victimized, report all thefts and all attempted thefts, no matter how small, to the police. We need to know when and where a crime is occurring in order to deploy our limited resources more effectively. Looking back, last year our priorities were traffic safety, drug trafficking, prolific offenders, domestic violence, and police-community relations. Each of these goals had one or more activities which also have targets to be reached. Last year we were able to meet almost all of our goals in support of these objectives, the one exception being the number of proactive street checks, which were down from the previous year. In spite of that, I'm pleased to report that we're still doing more street checks than almost all the other detachments on the island, and almost all the other police departments as well. Street checks are a very effective way of managing our prolific offenders. After consultations with municipalities, I held my first community consultation about 3 weeks ago. I was surprised at the number of people who turned out and offered me suggestions and comments on policing priorities for the coming year. Based on the input from local governments, the public, and my own employees, our priorities for the coming year will remain essentially the same, with several new initiatives. So briefly, it's road safety. We're looking at some increased enforcement, especially around the area impaired by alcohol and drugs. Organized crime, including prolific offenders and legal marijuana grow operations. Violent crime, trying to reduce victimization through programs such as DARE. And finally, enhancing police-community relations. My own internal priority remains our general duty staffing analysis. This analysis will allow us to determine where the uniformed members are spending their time and whether they are carrying out reactive or proactive policing, report writing, or training. It will also assist us in determining whether we have enough resources to answer both priority and routine calls. The success of reaching our goal will depend partially on the support we get from the public, our partner agencies, and local government. As I always end all my talks to you with 2 messages. I enjoy coming to work every day, and Comox Valley is a very safe place to live, to work, and to play.
Thank you, Inspector, for your report and for your service. Questions from members of the council? Just had the question about the survey. I did look at that survey on auxiliaries. Can you just give us a brief overview of how many auxiliary constables you have and what kind of work they do here?
Put Rob on the spot. How many do we have, Rob?
We currently have 19 auxiliaries on the program. Before the changes, they were doing all sorts of things, helping with walking through the parks during things.
Not police.
Not police, thank you. Walking through the park and supplementing us, assisting us in ride-alongs and stuff. That's been decreased greatly at this time until they figure out what to do with the program. We still have 19 on staff.
And there was talk about them changing uniforms as well.
There's a national review that's going on in the whole program. Half the province or half the country has gone with one type of thing, and the province of British Columbia is kind of looking at it a little bit differently. So the survey was sent out to the province of British Columbia, to partners and ourselves, and looking and seeing what they can do to differentiate between an auxiliary member and ourselves.
Yeah, you may be aware we had a letter from one of your auxiliaries at the council last week, and we talked about it, and there is a resolution going forward, not from the council here, but from the UOL to the conference in the fall in Victoria, so there'll be more discussion, I'm sure, between now and then about it. And do you know when the results of that survey will be released?
I don't. I'm not sure what the timeline's going to be. But I know the inspector and I are very pro the auxiliary program. I got my start with the auxiliary program, and the quicker we can deal with this, the better off we'll be.
Thank you.
I am able to report that the original decision was made by one of the deputy commissioners in Ottawa, recommended on the deputy commissioners in Ottawa, who's since retired. And the final review will be looked at by a new set of eyes, a new deputy commissioner coming in from Manitoba in headquarters. So he will be able to, I guess, be looking at a fair shake. I guess he'll give it one. So we're waiting for that. It'll be months.
We'll watch it with interest, and I'm sure we'll have the chance to debate it at UBC. All right, anything else? Seeing none, you are free to go.
Thank you. Good one.
I like to say. Leave the jail door open. All right, so our next presentation is from three young gentlemen, Benjamin Thompson, Jack Gregory, and Dominic Karami. And they're here to get us all charged up, so come up in front here and we'll get you to make your presentation. Shelley will show you, do you have a PowerPoint as well?
They have a presentation, or a presentation.
Awesome.
You guys, you want to get to stand.
You'll probably know how to work.
Sure. Unless you want someone to do it.
Yeah, you might want, you don't have to stand behind it, you can stand in front so we can see you.
Stand here, you just here. Or we go. Okay, there we go.
All right, well, welcome.
Here's that button that makes it go on.
Yeah, where is it?
I'm not sure.
What do you ask the young guys?
This is a Google presentation. It's not.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
new to
Oh,
us.
so they,
Do you guys know? What about under view at the top? You see under view? I don't know.
Teaching the old dog new tricks.
yeah.
Full screen, down the bottom. And then this way.
What if you click on there?
Oh, it's gonna go.
There you go.
Well, I don't think it's gonna be done, so this,
No.
Click on number 2 to see if it comes up.
sorry guys, it worked on my computer in the office. Okay, but we'll just have to
That's what
get.
they all say.
get on the computer.
Don't sign in.
Oh, we have to sign in.
I don't think you have to sign in, but there should be a mode for
Yeah.
presentation mode.
Yeah, yeah, it's not there.
Maybe the far top, far right, where the three horizontal lines are.
So that's Windows 10.
We'll work it for you. And so you guys want to put it in
They just gotta tell us when to hit the button.
Yeah,
Technology is hard.
I think it'll work.
All right, you have the floor, gents.
I'm Ben. I'm Dominic. And I'm Jack. And we are here to talk about getting a supercharger station in Coon's. And this is the second.
Yeah.
It's going. You just gotta be patient with us.
Technologically slow.
There we go.
We'd like a letter of support from Coon's Town Council for an electric vehicle supercharger in Coon's Valley. We hope that our presentation will convince you to do this.
There are only 6 normal chargers in Comox and Courtney. We need to increase that amount so we can make a better environment and let people charge more. Also, there are only 3 supercharger stations on the island. We need to increase that number.
We need at least one supercharger station in the Comox Valley. Supercharger stations are for electric cars like Tesla, Nissan, and Chevrolet. Tesla supercharger stations take only 20 minutes for a Tesla. People that have electric cars will be able to charge their cars faster, and they will not have to wait as long as a normal charger. Also, it will encourage people to get an electric car because they'll know that there's a supercharger station in Comox. If there's more electric cars in the community, that will mean a better environment for all of us.
A good place to put a new supercharger station is near 5th Street or Driftwood Mall. These areas are busy and easily accessible for vehicles. People can shop while their car is charging, and that will help the economy of the Comox Valley. Make sure it is a normal EV supercharger station. In the future, we suggest that a second supercharger station be put in Comox.
Over the last couple of weeks, we have been making petitions, blogs, and YouTube videos to see if people agree with us. On our petition, we have received 37 supporters, and it is growing by a lot. Our blog is doing well, and on there is a straw poll, our voting website. If you would like to contact us about this more, contact us at electric.car.helpers@gmail.com. Thank you. We'd like to thank you for listening to us and allowing us to present our case. It means a lot to our community and the environment. We hope to get a supercharger station in Comox Valley.
Well done, gentlemen. That's one of the best, most concise presentations we've seen in a long time. Thank you for bringing that to us. Councillors may have questions for you. Go ahead.
Do you know roughly how many electric vehicles are in the valley?
No.
I'm wondering how much use it would get, and I don't know. I know there is a charging station by Thrifty's at the Crown Nile. I don't know if that's an EEV one.
Our Director of Finance has his hand up.
Yeah, there's 3 classifications for charging stations, and it, like the one at Town Hall, is a Class 2. These gentlemen are talking about a Class 3 charger.
There is one at the Visitor Center, but I think it's...
I think that's a class 2 as
Yeah,
well.
Class 2.
Would you use Hugh an electric cord to plug in that little bike of yours?
Limited range.
I'd be very happy for the town to pay for my charger.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I was just wondering, I heard yesterday that there was a guy in town, and so up in Cousins Road, that had put one of these in, and he has an automotive shop up there. Can't remember what his name was. Are you guys, maybe I could be wrong here. I was just wondering if you might have known about that.
Can I just, I'm your teacher.
Yes.
And the boys have some information about a BC Hydro pilot project.
There you go.
With superchargers into BC, so they have a handout about that.
Okay, so could we hear about that? That'll be my question.
30 superchargers are built in BC. 18 are built. 12 are still to be built. So,
Is there funding available through BC Hydro for that, or is that just some information?
It was hard to find out about the funding, but they are looking at 3 criteria as to where to put the other ones. Do you guys want to talk about that, what the criteria are?
it has to be near a major road. And it has to be the right distance from the next supercharger.
It needs to have public support.
Could we get a copy of that? You've got a sheet on that project, on that BC Hydro? Could we get a copy of that?
Or you could give it to Shelley.
Maybe Shelley here could take it and get yours back?
One of the letters we got a while ago was somebody suggesting that we would consider perhaps putting one at the rec center here in Comox near the fire hall. I wonder if that location would be suitable. It's on one of our major roads, but it's not the major road, of course.
I think they were talking about a major highway.
Right.
So we're thinking the inland, the Aspen Highway is a major transportation corridor.
Visitor center maybe.
So somewhere in that area.
With the visitor center having one there now, which maybe isn't quite the same standard, there might be a possibility to do something of a higher standard there.
I believe it takes 8 hours to charge a car at a class 2.
Right. No, I'm just saying that might be an opportunity to put another one there.
Change that one out or something?
Yeah.
And that's also a regionally funded center. So that might be something to consider as well.
So I think the boys were just hoping for a letter of support
Sure.
from the council, and then all those details could be
Okay.
worked out later.
All right, well, we don't do that the night of a delegation, but staff can bring that back to us. And any other information?
That was my question. So you would like a letter of support, so if we pass it on to you guys, you will be able to build it into your petitioning efforts? Yeah. Well, great. Good show. And when you're ready to drive your electric car, hopefully we'll have one in something else.
Councillor McKinnon?
Well, just briefly, I'm proud to be part of the town that has taken the initiative with the chargers. But these 3 lads here to take the lead in this is that's the best public relations that they can get to getting the public on side. And you're the next generation, and this is happening now, and it's going to happen in the near future, not the far future. So thank you for bringing it to our attention.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, and we'll be in touch with you shortly. Thank you as well.
Thank you. As we can go. That's good. Thank you.
All right, thanks. right, so we don't have any other minutes of meetings or delegations, but we do have a departmental report, so motion's received for the financial statement.
Blue sheet.
Receipt that, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Any questions, comments? Usual thorough report from our Director of Finance, indicating satisfaction with our financial position as at March 31. All right, so we'll move on to the next item.
Blue sheet.
Second.
And that is for the Rainbow Crosswalk report. So on receipt of that, all those in favor? Motion's carried. So this is information that had been requested some time ago, and dating back to last fall. Staff, I know, we're trying to get it to us sooner, but we're otherwise occupied with projects that we've been working on. So this is provided to us for information. There's no specific recommendation being asked for at the moment, but that may come out of our discussions. So maybe open it for discussion at this time. Councilor Prince.
I wonder if there's been any conversation with Dr. Conradi just about the amount, whether that comes in the ballpark of his expectations.
I don't believe anything's been presented to Dr. Conradi, but that certainly could be done following this presentation.
And I guess my other question would be too that can it be changed to a black and white crossing if at the future date we find we haven't, that the cost of replacing it is too high and there's no sponsors? Is the paint compatible? Could we just
I can
go
ask
white instead of colour?
staff to respond to that.
The thermoplastic paint that we would be considering would be similar to the green bike lane paint that we have up on West Avenue Guthrie. And any way to remove that, because the thermoplastic basically is embedded into the asphalt, so it's basically cutting it out and repaving it is how you would remove it. Yeah, you have to resurface it.
And it still has a 5-year life. You would think if with all that effort it would last longer.
All right, anything further, question-wise? Councilor Kenny?
Yes, I don't think there's any argument that the message of the Rainbow Crossing has merit. I'm just not sure if it's council's mandate to maintain the maintenance of it in the long term. Again, the message I support. I'm just not sure that it's our mandate. And looking at the cost for maintaining the updates, I have some questions on that. But certainly not the concept that's behind it.
Councilor,
Yeah, I'd like to move that we accept this and thank staff for preparing it, and then look at buying a flag, the Gay Pride flag, and perhaps we could raise that during Gay Pride Week and recognize that and move away from the sidewalk. I think everybody will crosswalk. Everybody agrees it's a great idea, but it's a costly idea. And I'm just...
Okay, so we've received the report, so your motion is to basically the town acquire a suitable flag or...
in lieu of the crosswalk.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion on that?
Could we check out the expense of the flag and what sizes they come in, et cetera, et cetera?
We could, although I would expect that it would be relatively nominal.
Be around $100.
$100 sort of thing. So,
Do you think? Okay.
yeah.
And I certainly support buying the flag. And this is probably beyond the motion, but I'd still like to have that conversation with Dr. Conradi just to see, if the community is willing to pay the extra,
Sure.
then I'd be really happy to have
I
it.
think
It's a lot with our budget and our size of population, so that I think it would be great to see it.
I think as a matter of course, because it was brought to his attention that on receipt of this report and passing perhaps of this motion, that we would forward that information along to Dr. Conradi, indicating essentially that council does not wish to look at the cost, spending either the installation cost or the maintenance cost of it, and just let him know that's what we're doing.
Yes, and that would automatically happen, that's...
I think it's, yes, of course, I don't think we need a separate motion for that.
And if the community was willing to pick up the extra cost to go with the colours and maintain and replace, then certainly I personally would be very happy to get that.
All right, well, we'll pass that on to Dr. Carnati, and we'll see where it goes. Anything further on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Of interest, I saw today on Twitter that in Victoria, down at Douglas and Yates, they put in yet a different kind of sidewalk, which is colored puzzle pieces. And the Downtown Victoria Business Association's done that as a matter of just sort of making things more colorful. I don't think it's specifically a rainbow thing, but the cost on that was significant. So, of course, there were lots of comments online about whether they should be spending money on that.
If I may make a comment, I recall a number of years ago on the light posts, we had those flags, and they were quite colorful. And I saw an older picture of them recently.
The banner program?
The banner. And I think, if anything that's come out of this is that people like the idea of color being brought into downtown. And maybe at a separate discussion, we could have that through the BIA about bringing those type of banners back and get some color into the community.
At this point, that is a BIA.
Yeah.
BIA banner program.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of discussion over those banners. Some people really liked the nice, clean sort of look to these, and others had your opinion. So they went that way that time.
Yeah.
There's lots of discussion over whether it should be more colorful. So.
Well, we'll leave that with the BIA for the time being and see what they come forward with.
We'll bring it up at the meeting.
Thank you. All right, so I think that concludes the discussion on the crosswalk and the flag, and thank you, staff, for that report. Next item is the climate action reporting to receive the inventory for 2015 and the progress survey.
Move.
Second.
On receipt then, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Any discussion, questions, or comments? For, again, the Director of Finance in this report. It's an annual report that we do under the Climate Action Charter, and indicating, of course, out of our budget discussions, the offsets that we've purchased.
It was a different form, wasn't it, last year? If you filled out.
Director of Finance?
There's a couple of templates that you can generate from their survey. It's actually an online survey. And so I may have pushed the PDF button instead of the Word button last year. It'll export the draft and then the final in two different versions. But it's essentially the same survey.
Councilor Grant?
So I know the regional district kind of used our purchase program to do some of theirs, but one of the things that they're doing with some of their money is to commission a study to see about a multi-use path down Dyke Road. And I'm not sure if there's some way that we could be a part of that in the future or not, but I think that that's just a really positive and good project for the valley, and it wouldn't be, we kind of made a point of saying, could it be not connected to the road, so it's not, a separated one. And so they're commissioning that, and they're using Climate Action Charter money to do that. So if there's some way that we could be a part of that in the future, and I don't know the logistics of that in any way, but I just think that would be a super popular project for all the communities to get behind, and if we could fund it through something like this, it would be great.
Yes, I think there's progress being made at the regional level on that, so we'll keep that in mind for sure. As in the past, of course, we've taken the most inexpensive ones, and often they're overseas and so on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I had recently, I met with the Comox First Nations as just a resident of Comox, and talked to them just about this as a walkway along the Dyke Road and how they would feel about a walkway through their area. And it was an interesting meeting, and they were open to that, and so we promised to talk more about it, and I was going to talk to some of you about this type of thing. But I think having a nice path separate from the road, like you say, along the dike is well needed.
Yes, I know they've made an application for White BC funding as well. Absolutely, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so anything further on the climate action report? Seeing none, I think we pass the motion to receive it. Post-employment liabilities and actuary, and the recommendations that committee receive that report.
I would move receipt.
Received then, all those in favor? Motion's carried. And this stems from the auditor's discussion and the director of finance's comments on that from last week. So relatively self-explanatory, but if there are any questions.
Well, it seems like a lot of money to me for something that doesn't sound like we really need, so.
At this point, I think that's probably what
Yeah.
the director of finance is recommending. Councillor Price?
Yes, and it sounds like we're on the conservative side, which I always actually prefer. And this money is collecting interest, isn't it? So
No,
okay.
it's not money sitting in a bank somewhere. It's just an accounts payable accrual.
Okay.
It's not a reserve fund or whatever.
Okay. So you put your hands on it. I mean,
But the money that is in our bank account, we do earn interest on.
right. You know, I'm not quite sure of the difference then, because I was thinking that the money had to be there if we needed it for these. Okay.
No, an accounts payable accrual, you just credit the liability, and then the offset is to expense, right? It's not something you have to fund at that moment.
Okay, so you just have to
What-
take into account your mind.
When and this is sort of what my report was getting at, is that the actual time we spend money is sometime in the future, when employees retire, when they take time off from their sick day. That's when you're paying them. So the actual estimation of those future payments at year end is the work of an actuary. But however those estimates are prepared doesn't change the fact that the future is the future, and you'll pay whatever you pay as people get sick or retire. And you can use probabilities to estimate, when someone's going to get sick on average, when they're going to retire. But people, they always like to surprise you.
I just had a question about sick leave. I was just wondering do you have any views on how we compare with other districts for sick time? Are we taking more or less than, or do you know?
We can generate those reports. We do generate that report once a year for Richard Canagan, our CAO. Offhand, it's been a while since I saw that report, and so I'm not going to comment off the top of my head as to where we're at in terms of sick hours per year. And we don't have any metrics to compare that to for other municipalities. That's not something that's part of the UBCM's payroll reporting surveys, for instance.
Well, I don't need any time to spend on it. I just thought you might know. So, thank you.
It does come up in discussion at the collective bargaining, vis-a-vis, labor management side of things. And so it's something that staff keep an eye on and make sure that it's being used properly. But as far as how other communities go, then I'm not sure.
Yeah, Don, the sick leave, so I noticed that you can bank up to 25 days. Now, if the employee was to retire, does that just disappear, or do they get paid out for their sick leave?
It disappears.
Okay.
There is no payout of sick time.
Right.
Although the meritorious service, payment does provide a payment on retirement.
Right.
So that does get paid out at retirement.
Yeah. It's like the federal government. Absolutely.
Okay. Anything further on that? Seeing none, thank you for the report. Next item is the fifth base concession agreement, and staff are recommending approval of that for 24 months commencing May 23.
I'll move the recommendation.
Second.
On that recommendation, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried.
I just want, I looked through the contract. We don't require, they can be open whenever they choose to be. We don't require that they're there for a certain number of days or a certain number of events. It's,
I'll let our Parks Director respond to that.
The concessionaire basically gauges the usage at the park and is provided with the monthly schedule from the community center as to what's going on up there and tries to cater to the needs borne by that report.
Yeah, and I've seen them in operation already on Sundays for Master Baseball. They're there from morning till evening. And now in the evenings for the slow pitch and other games that are going on up there. Soccer Saturday is also very popular, so it's good to see them opening it. All right, so that's been approved. And under other, which was really because it was a bit of a late item, the FCM appeal, Alberta appeal, and that was brought to our attention by Councillor Mark Grant. So I'll just ask you to speak to that if you would.
Yes, thank you. Given the kind of devastation that we're all aware of is happening in Fort McMurray, and the far-reaching effect it's going to have, and also because we have a close connection with Fort McMurray between families living and working in both places, I therefore move that Council approve a donation to the City of Fort McMurray in the amount of $1,000 to be used at the City's discretion to benefit residents in the aftermath of this disaster.
Okay, so it's been moved, seconded. Discussion, go ahead.
So we would send this through the Red Cross? That way it gets tripled in value?
No, it won't, because it's only individual donations that are matched. Corporate or business donations are not being matched. So
I wonder if there's a way we could figure that out.
I'll ask our rec director who's got her hand up.
Oh, good.
Sorry, I was just asking to chime in if this topic came up.
Chime away.
We're planning a large fundraiser this month at the community center. We have instructors of Zumba that are going to donate their time. The attendants are going to come and make a donation. We're also going to have a donation box out at the front desk. We're just waiting to hear from the Red Cross. They're obviously backed up with this just to confirm that we're registered with them and the money will be going to them.
Is it the car wash?
No.
And
I could add to that, with the Zumba ladies and the firefighters on the 21st of the month, we're doing a car wash and barbecue at the Fire Hall for Fort Mac. Our firefighters are also just being tomorrow morning at a fundraiser at Lewis Park, and the firefighters will be donating $2,000 tomorrow morning. So
lots of efforts I know going on. I was just worried there for a second. I thought the fire chief was doing Zumba.
No, he's volunteering you, actually.
He's doing the hot dog stand.
That's a scary thought.
Are you going to barbecue tidbits there?
Yeah. They'll be
All right, well, we have a motion on the floor, and this would be a donation from the town of Comox to the city of Fort McMurray, or well, actually I think it's called the District of Wood Buffalo, or whatever it is. And that would be strictly a corporate donation from one corporation to another, which would be aside and apart from everything else that's going on in the community and individual donations that people have made. It's only individual donations that are being matched, and that's what I know about that. So, Councillor Kim.
Yes, like most of you and everybody in the room, I'm sure I shared the horror watching the Fort McMurray fire, and I personally have supported some fundraisers already at Comox Golf Club. The big band played 2 nights ago, and I know my wife's going to be involved with the firefighters doing that, and we've written a check as well. I'm sure as many of you have. I guess the question I would ask with this motion is that when do we say yes and no to disasters like this? What's the line in the sand? And with absolutely no disrespect to Fort McMurray and the number of people in our community that commute there, would we be thinking differently if it was a flood in Winnipeg that happened a few years ago, or a Fort St. John fire, which is happening right now, or anywhere else in the country? The solution I was going to suggest is that if there is the Town of Comox champion amongst staff or council that wants to host a fundraising event, it sounds like we're already doing that. So I guess my question is that the intentions are absolutely honorable and good here, but is it our mandate with taxpayers' money to make a donation like this? And the question crossed my mind, and I just opened it for discussion. And I don't, I realize the amount is not a huge amount, but it just opens the doors for that. And yet, so much my heart, our hearts are for the devastation that happened there.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. The only time I can think that we've done something similar is for the tsunami that happened in 2004. And I believe it was $10,000 that went through FCM, from here to FCM, because there was a specific campaign going on there. And of course, at that time, there were people, again, making donations to the Red Cross and otherwise. So it is a good question, and I know you'll get asked in any of these situations, but there are obviously situations which are different, and I suppose this might be one of them. But that's up to council.
Yeah. Well, I would suggest that the general answer to that is no, we don't do it, but I think there's some special circumstances, and I think this one is a little more personal for most people in this community. I think there probably isn't anyone here that doesn't know somebody that's affected by this, so I would really like to find a way that we could turn this into 3,000 instead of 1 by donating it to the
fire
Zumba
department.
ladies. Yeah. If there was a way we could donate it through some other cause and make that happen, I don't know. But
If it's coming from us, it won't qualify for the matching, and it's even debatable whether whatever's collected at a Zumba or fire department would be matchable. It has to be somebody writing a check, getting a charitable donation receipt, and then that gets matched.
And I hear points made by Councillor McKinnon. I just think this is an extraordinary circumstance. I know that 80,000 people are evacuated and still in limbo, that as community to community, that it's beyond imagination what happened there and what's still happening there. So I certainly support it. It's an extraordinary circumstance.
And I think some of the wording that Councillor Grant brought to us came from a resolution that another community, I think in the Cranbrook or something.
That's correct, Cranbrook.
That had sent that around to all the communities within the UBCM world. So, Councillor Swift.
Well, I agree with Councillor McKinnon. That's my only hesitation. But I do think, under the circumstances, that this is an appropriate cause to support. So I can support.
So the only other question, I suppose, is Director of Finance. $1,000. Of course, we have approved our budget. We haven't included that in our budget. So is there?
There's a council public relations line in the budget, so we'd come out of there.
All right. Thank you. All right. You ready for the question? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Grant. And of course, that'll go forward to council meeting next week for final approval as a recommendation from Committee of the Whole.
and when are we supposed to be up there washing fire trucks? Or
Saturday the 21st, 10 to 2.
and when's Paul doing a Zumba?
You don't have a date for that.
Middle of the night. All right, so we do have an in-camera meeting. Motion to exclude the public from the provisions of the chair. Those in favor? Motion's carried, and so we'll adjourn briefly and then we'll reconvene here.